Chapter 8. Tea Robert arrives. Witness a true tea master. Last time on Tea Dojo at Football State, Marcus and Damien attended their first dojo masterclass. The lesson showed them how to brew tea without smelling it or using a gongdao bei. Additionally, they were shown the power of yixing teapots, powerful brewing vessels with their own imbued chachi. In the middle of the class, the lights went out, and it seemed enemies were attacking. Damien teamed up with Natalie and Catherine to take one down, but Marcus, Tanner, and Gary seemed to struggle against theirs. As the lights came back on, it was revealed that this was a combat drill, of which Marcus was judged for not successfully fighting back. Marcus and Damien sat in the back office of the Tea Dojo, back behind the Chanayu room where they had previously taken the brewing portion of the exam. They chowed down on some orange chicken and rice. It was generally frowned upon to eat full meals in the dojo, but especially so today. Andrew had been placed in charge of preparing the Tea Dojo for Tea Robert's arrival that day. He was using his hospitality glove chachi to scrub every inch of the dojo and every crevice of anywhere he could find, even the ones that went unused. The normally laid-back man nearly had a conniption when Taylor walked in with a speck of dust on her shirt. After seeing that, Danielle, who had been a victim to a sudden and random sinkhole on her way to class and covered in mud, figured it was best she not even try to enter today. As a result of this, Damien and Marcus ate in the back, to avoid the ire of the dojo's public hours manager. Marcus, after getting about halfway through his bowl, looked up at Damien. You ever figure out how to hold a teapot with one hand yet? He asked. Yeah, I'm just about there. It's pretty shaky, though. Damien continued eating. He also took a swig of his bowl tea. Marcus watched as he swelled with chachi. Damien was completely unaware of the minor scowl that Marcus was giving him from across the room. Damien inadvertently went to make matters worse by opening his mouth again. You figure out how to do anything with your chachi other than put up a shield? Marcus slammed his bowl down on the table. The sound made Damien jump. No, not really, he said. I've been trying to have Abby teach me how to use her astral fist chachi, but it's not going well. I don't know how you even tested into the dojo with her as an excuse for your teacher. Damien stood up. Hey, don't talk about Abby like that. The two both stood up and glared at each other. The tension was as palpable as the chachi in the air between them when Jack suddenly walked in. Oh, there you are. Perfect, Jack said. Then he glanced at the food. Why are you eating that? There's perfectly good real Chinese food here in town. Give me some of it. He grabbed a nearby plastic fork and ate some of Marcus's. Marcus rolled his eyes. You had some reason for finding us? He asked. Oh yeah, that's right, he said. Rick is dealing with a last-minute hiccup with Tea Robert's hotel and asked me to come pick him up. I need the two of you to come with me. Why do you need us? Damien asked. I just need anyone. The two of you are the closest who aren't also busy, Jack said. I'll be honest, I'm kinda scared to be around Tea Robert and Bruno by myself. I have this weird worry I'm gonna say something awkward. Without much further chance to discuss it, Jack dragged Marcus and Damien by the arms and pulled them outside into a small parking lot behind the English building. He unlocked his car, and the two of them hopped in and got on the road through campus and out towards the airport. Wait, hold on. Who is Bruno? Marcus asked. All this time I thought Tea Robert was a solo act. Bruno is one of Tea Robert's longest-running and most impressive students. He runs a popular blog and online tea store. He also acts as Tea Robert's translator. You'll like him. He shares the kind of sense of humor that you two have. Marcus doesn't have a sense of humor as far as I'm concerned, Damien said. No, Damien's just not very funny, that's all, Marcus said. Jack looked at the two in the rearview mirror with concern, not quite understanding what was going on. They pulled up to the airport and saw two Asian men awaiting them outside the terminal. Jack pulled up and let them into the car. Tea Robert, a shorter and older-looking man with glasses and short hair, stood. He carried nothing but a satchel on him, and wore a brown jacket that seemed a bit too light for the winter weather of Football State. Bruno loaded two large suitcases into the back of Jack's car. He looked a bit up in age as well, but was vibrant with youthful energy, and was surprisingly built for a man at his age who spent most of his time brewing tea and writing. His salt and pepper hair seemed to stand up straight independently of any product or wind. Tea Robert got into the passenger seat next to Jack. Bruno eagerly climbed over Marcus and sat between the two roommates and gave them a friendly pat on the legs. Jack, it is so good to see you, Bruno said. And who are these two new friends of the dojo? My name's Damien. I'm Marcus. Damien and Marcus, ha ha! So excited to see the lifeblood of the Tea Dojo at Football State is strong. Tea Robert told me on the way he was worried that Rick had such high standards that he would not let anyone else pass into his dojo. Though, maybe he was right, and you all were just that good. Jack peeled off to drive back towards the dojo. Bruno continued his friendly conversation with the two in the back. Damien started to notice that Tea Robert had said nothing to anyone since entering. Jack mentioned that Bruno was his translator, Damien thought. But even still, Jack and he should be able to talk to each other. Then Damien saw something most peculiar. Tea Robert pulled a thermos from his satchel. He took a drink of it. No chachi emanated from him. Damien's neck hair did nothing in response. Damien smelled carefully. There was definitely a potent oolong smell coming from the thermos, even at this distance. Damien turned to Marcus. As he made eye contact with him, an attempt to signal something, he saw Marcus scowl a bit. This made Damien scowl in response, and he just looked out the window. "I saw it too," Jin whispered inside Damien's mind. "How strange." Damien was in no mood to engage with his tea demon today. Instead, he stayed silent as the five of them made their way back to the dojo. As Jack led the two in, the entire membership of the dojo had arrived to greet the two of them. Bruno excitedly shook hands with the new members, quickly introducing himself. Tea Robert simply stood up in the middle of the room, seeming to take in the scene. Bruno gave a glance over to him, and despite Tea Robert really giving him no facial reaction, Bruno still turned and said, "Tea Robert is so excited to see so many new members in the dojo. He is so eager for you to show him your chachi." "Ah," Jin whispered to Damien's mind. "I think I understand now." Damien continued to ignore him. Everyone lined up in an orderly fashion to show off their chachi one by one. Bruno sat across from them to brew as well. First up was Tanner. He brewed in a teapot and showed off as he drew a small dog that sprung to life. Damien's attention locked in, but he quickly realized it was not the same mysterious cartoon dog he had seen scrawled throughout his various notebooks. When Bruno drank his tea, there was a massive pulse of chachi that radiated through the room. When it cleared, Bruno had spectacles composed entirely of tea energy on his face and studied Tanner and the dog closely. He invited Tea Robert in closer, and the master stepped in and seemed to examine him as well. "A kind of creative chachi," Bruno said. "I like it. A power that is limited only by your imagination and artistic skill. And I can tell both of these things seem completely limitless." Next, Gary came up. He brewed and asked a small tea bowl to spin around and move for him, and it complied. Tea Robert stroked his chin, and Bruno looked at him as if he was saying something. "Yes, indeed. I can almost hear the whispers too," Bruno said. "What secrets you must hear from all sorts of pottery, and how kind you must be for all of them to so willingly share with you." Then Taylor came up. She conjured her chachi sphere. She turned towards Tea Robert and smiled. She went to gently toss the ball in his direction. Bruno deftly grabbed it out of the air with 2 fingers and studied it closely. "Ah, I have seen chachi like this, but not exactly the same. It is the kind that comes only from embracing a truly free spirit. Keep that independent fire alive in your heart, and you will go far." Danielle was next to go. She channeled a large amount of chachi through herself as she focused intently. With her right hand, she managed to get the entire table and everything on it to just slightly levitate off the ground. "Impressive. You have gone through great trials to cultivate a chachi this powerful. You have not let one of them knock you down for good, though. That is where true strength comes from." Catherine came up next. She brewed her tea and then carefully eyed them as she slowly grabbed her teacup. She brought it to her mouth, sipped it, and teleported behind Bruno. Her eyes widened, though, as the moment she appeared on the other side, his finger was to her forehead. "You are quite quick. You keep your guard up, for yourself and your friends. They are lucky to have someone like you in their lives." Natalie followed after her. After she brewed and nothing seemed to happen, Bruno made a show of looking to Tea Robert. Then, as if some silent communication had occurred, he channeled some chachi into his hand and watched as an equal amount surged through her. Even as he raised it, he watched her energy matched it. "This chachi, it speaks to someone very generous and with a big heart. That type of energy transfers well when it comes to brewing tea." Finally, Damien was up. He stared at his teapot that the others had been using. He set it aside and put a gaiwan down. Rick sighed slightly in the distance. "Sorry, I hope you don't mind. I just want you to get the best impression of what I can do." "Don't mind at all. Please proceed." He brewed the tea in the gaiwan, focusing deeply on making sure it reached its perfect peak. He found brewing in only 2 cups to be much easier than stratifying into multiple, and spilled very little. He handed the tea over to Bruno. He drank it and was pleased with what he made. The tea aura emanated from him. He waited to see if Bruno would interact with Tea Robert to try to decipher how to interact, like he did with Natalie. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, Bruno slung a knife, fully formed out of chachi, directly at Damien. Damien's eyes widened, but as soon as the knife was generated, he could sense its direction at him. He grabbed it out of midair, breathing heavily. "Quick thinking, adaptable, good traits for a tea practitioner. You forge your own path, regardless of what others may think. Keep doing that." Damien smiled and sat back down. Marcus breathed in deep as he went up to brew. He used the teapot and showed off excellent skills and mastery. Then, he drank the tea and threw up his shield chachi. Bruno studied it closely. He conjured another chachi knife and tapped the shield with the tip, not piercing it at all. Resilient, resolute in your thoughts and will. At least that's how you choose to appear. Let others in and you will feel as strong as you seem. Marcus frowned a little, not quite understanding what this was supposed to mean. Bruno abruptly stood up and breathed out. Tea Robert is exhausted from his flight and from examining all of your chachi. But he is impressed with all of you. We will reconvene tomorrow after he has had time to rest. Everyone went back to their dorms, and Jack drove Tea Robert and Bruno back to their hotel with Rick. Marcus and Damien walked in silence on their way home. Danielle joined them for part of the way. The tension in the air was still evident. Trouble in roommate paradise? Danielle asked. Apparently, Damien said. He won't tell me why. Marcus just grunted. He was unwilling to give either of them the satisfaction of an answer. The two roommates spent a rather quiet night and got up bright and early for the exhibition in the morning. When they got to the dojo, Abby was standing outside. She nodded at the two of them. Two of you are on guard duty for this session. Guard duty? Damien asked. Yeah, our enemies love to attack most when we have a high-profile guest. Each of you not-so-new brews will have to take shifts guarding. But the two of us? Does it have to be both of us? Marcus sighed. It's because they don't trust me on my own. We don't have time for all this, Abby said. The two of you make up and guard this dojo. She walked into the room and the two could hear the tea master start his lesson through the voice of Bruno. Marcus and Damien stood alone for a while, not wanting to talk to the other. After a while, Damien broke the silence. Listen, I don't want to be at each other's throats for the rest of this semester and next. Will you tell me what I did that's bugging you so much? Marcus scoffed. Isn't it obvious? The way you prance about here, attending none of the lectures, barely dedicating enough time to properly holding a teapot, all that and the end result is that you just get lucky because your chachi is better than mine. And because he picked up a tea demon, Jin added. And because you picked up a tea demon. Don't encourage the tea demon, Damien said. Marcus, I get that, and I'm sorry you're having trouble with learning new abilities, but you're not seeing the full picture. How is that? He asked. I skipped a lot of the lectures, but I must have made it up with twice the time in studying with Rick. I do practice more than I let on with the teapot. I just don't get it. Making tea that way, it doesn't work for me. In all honesty, I'm jealous of people like you. People like me? What are you talking about? Damien's eyes widened and he suddenly felt his hair stand on end. Marcus recognized that look immediately. Where's it coming from? He asked. It's in the Chanoyu room. Whoever it is, somehow they slipped by us entirely. We gotta be inconspicuous. We don't want to alarm the dojo or Tea Robert. The two slowly tiptoed through the doorway of the dojo and into the Chanoyu room. Bruno was enraptured in translating something, but outside of that, everyone's heads turned as they saw Damien and Marcus theatrically trying to sneak into the back. Rick just shook his head and turned his attention back to the presentation. Once in, they breathed a sigh of relief. That went great, Marcus said. Now where's the evil Chachi coming from? Damien walked over towards the windows. He was unable to see the signs of Chachi anywhere in the room, but still felt the presence heavily. He looked down at the windowsill and saw a trail of ants marching along it. Ah, dang it, Damien said. When did we get ants back here? Marcus came over to look. Without much thinking, he grabbed a paper towel and just started to press down on the little troop marching towards the back office. As he went to kill the ants, he jumped back as suddenly some of them lunged right at him. They launched themselves like bullets, one almost grazing his skin. Damien only at the last second managed to yank himself and Marcus out of the way. What the heck just happened? Marcus asked. That's the enemy's Chachi. It's some kind of control over ants, and they're trying to get to the back office. Damien and Marcus watched as the ants, on which they now saw the faintest glimmer of Chachi, march over in hordes to the back office. A small contingent of them veered off towards the main dojo area. Damien stood back up and unsheathed his thermos. We can't let them get in there, but all the tea is in there. Not all of it, Marcus said. He ran over to a cupboard in the corner by the tatami mat. He pulled out a small green container. Opening it up, he revealed matcha. He grabbed a whisk and a tea bowl and scooped the smallest bit from the container to the bowl. Quick, water me. Here, have a splash. Damien poured some in. Marcus started vigorously whisking the matcha until it was all incorporated in the solution, and the matcha had a nice frothy look to it. He handed it to Damien and grabbed a new bowl to start again. Damien left his thermos with Marcus, and taking a quick swig of his matcha, dashed over towards the ants. The ants charged back at him, but using the quick reflexes from premonition Chachi, He was easily able to flick each of them out of the way and onto the ground. He quickly got to stomping on the remaining, trying to stamp out the battalion that was on their way to the dojo. He was able to snuff them out, but in the corner of his eye, he still saw the larger group that was making their way towards the back office. Now, with heightened senses, he could tell one of the windows was slightly loose. "Over there! They're getting in through the window!" Marcus nodded. He took a swig of his matcha, wrapped his entire body with his chachi shield, and marched over. The ants fired at him like bullets, but their weak bodies crumpled as they smashed into Marcus's invulnerable tea energy armor. He quickly grabbed the window and, using all of his might, slammed it down and into place, crushing several ants in the process. "Take that. Good luck getting in here now." Without warning, the ants suddenly barreled through the window, shattering it. Marcus stumbled backwards as the ants fired themselves into him repeatedly. A group of them swirled around, taking formation as a giant ant in front of Marcus. He raised his fists in self-defense against the giant ant construct. Damien ran over and slung a bit of his nearly boiling hot thermos water on them. It was just enough to instantly kill a significant number of ants in the main body of the construct, and it came tumbling down as the ants struggled to regroup. "You okay?" Damien asked. "Yeah," Marcus said, getting up to his feet and shaking his head. "Just annoyed." "About the window?" "No, annoyed about how this is the kind of situation that Danielle should find herself in, not us." "Fair," Damien said. "I'm a little under half water. We need to find a way to end this quickly." "Where's the Chachi user?" Marcus asked. "If we find them, we can take them out and put an end to this." Damien felt the back of his neck with his hand. He closed his eyes to try to see through the noise. He felt the most massive presence in the dojo, likely Bruno, since for whatever reason, Damien could never sense Tea Robert's Chachi. He could feel Marcus next to him, and the ants radiated a fair bit of it themselves. He dug deep, though, trying to focus in on where the mystery source was. Suddenly, he felt it. He turned his head towards the back office. "It's coming from in there," he said. "This person isn't trying to send the ants in to get something. They're already back in there and trying to bring them to themselves." Armed with this new knowledge, Damien immediately lunged for the doorway to go back there. As he did so, the army of ants in the doorway reformed into a massive wall. Damien went to grab his thermos again, but as he did so, several of the ants shot out towards him, piercing through his right hand as he gasped in pain. It knocked the thermos clean out of his hand. As he went to go grab it again, he winced as the ant bullets had robbed him of control of his hand. "Brace yourself," he warned. Marcus wrapped his hands in Chachi and blocked the ants. Several of them seemed to completely miss his location. He laughed a little bit at this, but then he grimaced. The other ants had targeted the bamboo whisks for making matcha. Marcus clenched his fists. Then after a bit, he started to laugh. "Ah," he said. "Stupid ants. You might need a whisk for Chanayu, but when it comes to Gongfu Cha, it's all about making the best tea with the tea and wares you have available. A certain teacher of mine taught me that." He walked over and picked Damien's thermos off the ground. He removed the lid and put several scoops of matcha into it. He put the lid back on and began to shake it in his hands as if it was a cocktail shaker. "And unfortunately for you, I fancy myself a mixologist just as much as a tea practitioner." Damien staggered to his feet. "But that water's nearly boiling hot. How are you going to drink it?" Marcus smiled and wagged his finger. He grabbed what was left of his tea bowl and sipped up the dregs. "This should get me just enough chachi to coat my mouth, throat, and stomach." As stated, his mouth and throat began to shimmer with tea energy. Marcus threw back the shaken matcha into his gullet and surged with more of the shining aura. He walked dramatically up to the wall of ants, who launched volley after volley of ants in his direction, which just pinged off him. When he got to the wall, he reached his fist through to tear a hole in the ants and keep walking. He smiled with pride as he made his way to the back office. Damien stood up. He went to go after him, but the ants had resealed the wall. He bit his lip nervously as he stood there. Jin, surprisingly silent the whole time, finally spoke up to ask, "So, when he faces your assailant back there, how's he going to defeat them?" "He'll figure it out. I'm sure he will." Marcus walked into the back office, breathing heavily, but there was no going back now. As he rounded the corner to get there, something odd revealed itself to him. It was a smell. The room smelled absolutely awful. Marcus's mind went to the worst place first. Had someone tried to engage the assailant back here and failed? He shook his head. No, everyone was accounted for in the room, right? He left this thought behind as he turned, opened his eyes, and faced whatever had made the smell back there. Marcus nearly fell over as he saw 2 partly eaten bowls of orange chicken and rice staying out in the room. They smelled absolutely terrible. They had spoiled quickly right next to the heater. A half-drank bowl of tea seemed to sit next to the meal. Marcus could not believe what he was seeing, but it was clear that the chachi from the tea somehow managed to seep its way into the orange chicken. "Oh, what the heck?" Marcus yelled. "What? Who is it?" Damien asked from the other room. "It's our orange chicken from yesterday. We forgot to take it with us when we ran off with Jack. Somehow you managed to infuse your chachi into it, and it came to life. It's the source of the chachi calling out to the ants. How is this even possible? Why is it doing this?" "Chachi is shaped by the will and personality of the user," Jin said. "By granting that poor excuse for a meal the power of tea, you gave it willpower and a need to complete a purpose. It seems that purpose is being eaten. That's why it's calling these insects to itself. Then, once eaten, the ants will absorb the chachi themselves." "What an absolute mess," Marcus said. "Rick or Andrew are going to kill us if we can't get these ants out of here. It's just a matter of who gets to us first. If the ants don't." There was no response from Damien. Marcus stared around the room. He saw the droves of ants making their way into the room, encroaching on the food. If they ate it, there was no telling how much stronger they could become. He panicked, racking his brain. He checked and he only had just a little under a quarter of the thermos matcha left. Not nearly enough to defeat them all. "Hey Damien, you still there?" he asked. "Kind of need your knack for creative gung fu right now." Damien stayed silent for a moment. "Come on, you must have an idea for what to do." "You're really not going to like what I have to say." "Try me. It can't be worse than being eaten by a horde of ants." "It's pretty dang close." Marcus stared at the food before him. A flicker of realization flashed across his face, and he almost instantly gagged. "Damien, you can't be serious," he said. "It's the only way. Just use your shield chachi to protect your mouth and stomach, like you did with the boiling matcha." "This is terrible. I wish you never brought me to this dojo." Despite his protests, Marcus drank the remainder of his matcha. He concentrated his chachi around his mouth and stomach. He ate as fast as his body would allow him without returning any of the food. He wolfed down the first one, then moved to Damien's leftovers. The ants seemed to go into a panic from this, with no idea what to do, as they started marching in a death spiral. When he finished, the ants seemed to go into an automatic retreat, fleeing the tea house in a single file line. Marcus stepped out towards Damien, looking disgusted with himself. Damien was still clutching his pierced hand in pain, having sealed up the wound while Marcus was in the back. Marcus sighed deeply and quietly. "We never tell anyone what happened back there." "Agreed," Damien said. "We all good now?" "I guess so." Rick walked into the Chanyu room. His eyes widened as he saw the minor damage to the room and then saw the damage to Damien's hand. He walked over, drank some tea from his thermos, and laid his hands over Damien's, imbuing a healing chachi into him to patch up the wound. Damien stretched his hand out, amazed by how quickly he nearly felt completely better. "I thought I heard some commotion back here," Rick said. "So, the two of you did end up having to tangle with a disgruntled ex-member. Did you take care of him?" Marcus bit his lip. "Yep, that's right. Disgruntled ex-member. Yep, he won't be a threat anymore, let's just say." "More than that," Damien said. "Marcus took him down all on his own. I got this injury early in the fight, and he had to finish him off. He really chewed him up." Marcus kicked Damien in the shins. Rick looked impressed with Marcus. "Oh, that's interesting, right? You almost had me thinking the other day that you didn't have what it took, but I should have known better. Great job, Marcus. Now come on, guys. It's time for us to take Bruno and Tea Robert to dinner." Damien ran out of the door to get ready. Rick looked behind to see Marcus not coming. He tilted his head. "Go on without me," Marcus said. "I want to tidy up around here from the battle. Plus, I'm not exactly hungry right now. I'll catch up later." Rick nodded. He made his way out to the others as they made their way over to the alehouse for dinner. Marcus started to pick up the rubble, see which items that were damaged in the scuffle were salvageable, and make a list of what needed to be replaced. He mopped up some mess that had been made during the battle. He breathed out silently to himself. "I know I did well today, but I still can't help but feel so far behind," Marcus said. "If that had truly been an assailant back there, what would I have even done? Why am I stuck with the one power that does nothing for anyone but myself?" He finished cleaning up to the best of his ability. Then, he emerged from the Chanyu room into the main dojo area. He froze immediately. Someone was sitting at a table just across from him, staring right at him. Marcus noticed his impressive tea aura, long before he even registered who it was. "Ah, there you are," Bruno said. "I was hoping to have a quick chat." Thank you so much for listening to this chapter of Tea Dojo at Football State. If you enjoyed, please rate the podcast, give it a like on YouTube, or share with someone else you think might also enjoy. You can stay up to date with Tea Dojo at Football State by by following us on social media. That'll be D Squared Stories on just about any of the major platforms. If you prefer reading to listening stories, also follow us on Substack, also D Squared Stories. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to have you listen again next week.